In this episode, how about the weather? Part 1, sunny weather.
Hi there, bridal couples to be.
Welcome to How to Get Married in Holland.
The ultimate wedding podcast of and about the Netherlands.
We, wedding ceremony experts, aka celebrants Daphne and Jasperin, share all ins and outs of getting married in our flat and fabulous country.
Enjoy listening. Yes, the sun can shine in the Netherlands, right?
It can and it does. It has been shining a lot lately. We're making this episode in June and it has been very sunny and very hot. I don't think the idea that people have of weather in the Netherlands is that the weather can be good. But yes, it can be good and it can
Very
be
good.
very hot as well. So what
Yeah,
to do about the weather, about the sun, about the heat when you are getting married? What do you have to take into account?
Yeah, the sun and the heat and the moist, of course, because I have had weddings where it was 32 degrees. And that may sound like, oh, well, that's a nice temperature. But in the Netherlands, it can be quite moist. So it feels even warmer, right?
Yeah, I think that's very important to point out that the heat here is like a moist heat and not a dry heat.
Yeah.
And the temperature, it actually makes it feel hotter. It's sticky, a sticky heat.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It does depend on where you're getting married. For
Hmm.
example, when you're on the
Hmm.
coastline,
Hmm.
it can be a little bit more comfortable. But when you're in the south of the Netherlands, it can be, yeah, pretty warm
Hot.
indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, what can you do? Of course, protect yourself with sunscreen. Um, but yeah, when the bride is in beautiful makeup, that's a bit difficult, perhaps. Um, Sunshades, sunscreens, parasols.
What I
This,
see is many times, and that's something to think about, that when a couple plans to marry outside, there is like a sunscreen or a parasol for the bridal couple,
Mhm.
but then the rest of the people are out there in the sun.
In a bloody heat.
Exactly, exactly. And especially for elderly people, um, that's something you have to think about, whether you want your grandmother, your 84-year-old grandmother, to sit out in the heat and can she actually stand the heat. So parasols or shades, sunshades can be a good idea to extend that not only to the bridal couple, but also to your guests.
Yeah. And you also have beautiful solutions like a stretch
Oh,
tent
yeah.
or
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 marquee.
find a marquee or find a different spot
Mhm.
perhaps
Mhm.
near a tree
Mhm.
for natural
Oh,
shade.
yes.
But also discuss it with your photographer
Yeah.
because shade on faces
Mm.
isn't favored with photographers.
Well,
So
it depends. I think especially when you have partially shade and partially
yeah,
they want it to be one or the other.
yes,
You know,
indeed,
and that's
yeah,
with when you're getting married underneath a tree, the leaves will filter through some light, and that moves, and that's
you
exactly
get dots on
yes,
your face.
dots on your
Yeah,
face. So,
yeah,
but as such, under a tree, it really in the shade is a good idea when it is very hot.
yeah, because it whatever protection you choose, it is in your pictures. So if you have all a roof of parasols, yeah, it can be it has a different look
Yeah, yeah, it does.
on your pictures.
Yes.
So that's
You
something
can
to
get
take into
fans for
account.
everyone, like these,
Yeah,
nice colored, or maybe, put even a logo of your wedding day and your initials, the bridal couple's initials in there, on there. That's, a nice little detail that doesn't
it's
make
a
it any
cool.
cooler, but it feels cooler at least.
Well, I think it's a cool service
Uh-huh.
for your guests,
Yeah.
and it's also a nice giveaway.
Yeah. Yeah. yeah,
Yeah,
as well.
little bottles of water
Yeah, yeah, we
to stay
think,
hydrated. Very important
and
because I
maybe,
once had one of the guests fainting during the ceremony.
yeah, that's
So
something
that
you
was,
don't want.
yeah, that
Mm,
was quite a scare. So
mm,
everything was all right,
mm,
but yeah.
that's something you don't want.
No.
Um, what I had once, and what is something to take into account, is the color of the chairs.
Mm.
Once I had a wedding and it was very, very hot. It was like 36 degrees outside Celsius. And they had black chairs, black leather chairs for the guests.
Oh, I feel it
Yeah,
already.
so when the guests came in and they sat down on the chairs, they literally burnt their bums. So, do take that into account. I think that's something you have to think of. But when getting married outside in the Netherlands is absolutely possible. It's lovely, but do think ahead of time. Do think whether you should choose that tent to make sure that you have the shade, that you are outside, but that you do have the shade, or at least make sure that your guests can cool themselves a little bit.
Yeah. And for the bride, it's perhaps a little bit more comfortable because the dress is
Yeah.
always
Oh yes.
shows some
Yes.
shoulder
Mm,
or
mm, mm,
no covered
mm,
arms.
mm,
But for the groom,
mm.
a few weeks ago, I had a groom. He was fully dressed in an four-piece suit,
Oh,
and he wore, of course,
the jacket, the
a
shirt.
jacket, a shirt, a
Yeah, the
vest,
vest. Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
It can
he,
be very hot. Also, when
yeah,
some couples decide that they want to get married, and then the weather can be hot as well. And then sometimes it can be very hot in the hall where you are sitting. So that's something to take into account in any case. If you get married inside and the weather is hot outside, how is the air conditioning? Because a hall can become very, very sticky, stuffy, and hot as well.
yeah, especially if you have many guests,
Yes, yes.
it can really heat up the room.
So make sure
Yeah,
that you have the same things there. Make sure that you provide the fans. Make sure you provide some water. Um, keep the windows open if there is no ventilation possible, or keep the windows shut when you do have air conditioning.
yeah, yeah. And you can also think about the timing
Mm.
of your wedding
Mhm. Yep,
ceremony. For example, are you getting married at when it's the most warm or hot during the day?
this moment. Yeah.
Between 11 and 3
Mhm.
o'clock?
Yeah.
Or do you opt getting married for 4 p.m. or even later?
Yeah, I think in summer that could be a good idea. Although most couples I marry do tend to get married between, let's say, 2 and 3:30, 2 and 4, maybe, because it's the most practical thing. But whenever you do, you really have to take into account that the sun can shine in the Netherlands. It will shine, and when it does, it can
It
get
is fierce.
very hot. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And you can always opt for an evening ceremony.
Mhm.
I think
Lovely.
I've been
Yeah.
to conducted a wedding ceremony at 7 p.m.
Mhm.
So the bridal couple and their guests were having a great dinner
Mhm.
outside. And then they retreated for a while, checked their makeup and preparing for the
Mhm.
ceremony. And everyone went into the ceremony room, and then they had the wedding, yeah, in the evening, and got the party started straight away.
Sometimes you just have to think out of the box
Yeah,
to change things around to make use of well, to use the best moments of the day for certain parts.
yeah, yeah. And I think you can also have the best of both worlds because you can choose to get married inside, stay in that romantic, cool bubble,
Mhm.
preferably with air conditioning.
Yep.
And then when your wedding officiant presents you as the newlyweds, here they are, Mr. and Mrs. and then you go outside, and then you can have your toast
Yeah.
and bridal cake and congratulations outside.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you celebrate inside, and then you
Yeah.
celebrate outside as newlyweds.
That's one thing. Mostly inside you can control things like that, like temperature, better
Mm,
than
yeah,
outside because, after all, we are in the Netherlands and there's nothing so changeable as the weather.
yeah. Speaking of which, do check out our next episode,
Mm.
because that's about a whole other kind of weather.
Speak to you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to How to Get Married in Holland.
We look forward to share more about organizing your wedding day in the Netherlands in the next episode.
Hit the subscribe button so you won't miss anything.
Any questions in the meantime?
Please ask wedding celebrants Daphne or Jasperin. You can find us, plus the show notes, on Instagram.
And if you love this podcast, please leave a review.
It gives us a higher ranking, so more fun international couples with Dutch wedding plans will be able to find us.
Until next time.